Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is my pleasure to welcome you to Temple Emeth and to our Shabbat Morning Service. We are back on live stream after icy weather required us to move to Zoom last night, and we are very glad you've joined us as we join together here at the Rabbi Louis J. Siegel Sanctuary in Teaneck, New Jersey. Well, I have just a couple of notes to welcome you to our service and to help orient you. If you are joining us on live stream, the Seder that we use is Mishkan Tefillah. And if you have a Mishkan Tefillah, now is the time to bring a copy of the Seder to your computer or your screen. If you don't have a copy of the Seder, you can still access one by going preferably on a second device to our live stream page, emeth.org/livestream. You can scroll down a bit to where it says to access the Seder, and then click on the link for Mishkan Tefillah for Shabbat weekdays and festivals. You will then be able to access the page for our Seder in a flipbook format, a digital format, and you'll be able to follow along with all of the prayers, all the songs, and all the page numbers of our service. If you're watching us on live stream, I also encourage you to post something in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform at this time. You can post your name, your location, a Shabbat greeting, anything to help us form bonds of virtual community, to know that there are others just like you watching us, engaging with us virtually during this service. I'd like to also welcome the members of the temple who've joined us here in person in the sanctuary. You too can find a copy of Mishkan Tefillah right in front of your seat and be an active participant in our service this morning. I invite you to turn at this time to page 192 in the Seder, page 192. As we join together in an opening song, please join with us as Cantor Tillum leads us in singing Ma Tovu.
Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la. Vani berov chastecha, avovetecha, avovetecha. Eshtachave elechol kodshecha, b'yiratecha, b'yiratecha. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la. Adonai avtimon beitecha, unkom mishkan kivodecha. Vani eshtachave ve'echra, evrecha lifnei Adonai yosi. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la la. Vani tefilati lecha Adonai, et ratzon, Elohim birov chasdecha, haneni bemet yishecha. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la la la.
We turn now to page 194, where we find the first of two complementary blessings. The first is the blessing thanking God for the miracle of the human body. The next on page 196 thanks God for the miracle of the soul. Together, these miracles ensure our existence. We join together now in English. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai rofeh chol basar, umafli la'asot. My God, the soul you have given me is pure. You created it, you shaped it, you breathed it into me, and you protect it within me. For as long as my soul is within me, I offer thanks to you, Adonai, my God, and God of my ancestors, source of all creation, sovereign of all souls. Praised are you, Adonai, in whose hand is every living soul and the breath of humankind. Baruch atah Adonai asher biado nefesh kol chai v'ruach kol basar ish. We turn now to page 198, where we join together in the Nisim B'chol Yom, the blessings for our daily miracles. They begin on page 198 and continue on the next few even-numbered pages.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasa chavivina leavchin ben yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokev kifufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechlin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanotein layaev koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavir sheina meinai unuma me'afapai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzelem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bat chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara.
We turn to page 204 and we join at the top of the page in the blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We turn to page 206, where we find an excerpt of Torah, which we recite in fulfillment of the blessing. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. We turn now in our Seder to page 215, where we find Ashrei, an acrostic psalm, which we recite responsively. Please join us as together we chant Ashrei. Ashrei yoshvei beitecha od yehalelucha selah.
Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Eloha.
Tehila leDavid aromimcha Elohai hamelech, v'avarcha shimcha leolam va'ed.
B'chol yom avarcheka v'halala shimcha leolam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai umehulal me'od, v'ligdulato ein cheker.
Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha ugvuratecha yagidu.
Hadar kavod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha.
Vezuz norotecha yomeru ugdulatcha saprena.
Zecher rav tuvcha yabi'u, v'tzidkatcha yiranenu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai erech ha'payim u'dochased.
Tov Adonai lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha v'chasidecha yivarchucha.
Kevod malchutcha yomeru, ugvratecha yedaberu.
Leodia livnei adam gvurotav v'chor adar malchutav.
Malchutcha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador.
Somech Adonai l'chol hanoflim v'zokef l'chol akfufim.
Einech lecha yisaberu, v'atanoten lehem et ochlam be'ito.
Poteach et yadecha umaspia l'chol chai ratzon.
Tzadik Adonai b'chol deracha, v'chasid b'chol ma'asav. Panav.
Karov Adonai l'chol korav, l'chol asher yikra'u v'emet.
Ritzon Yerav Ya'aseh, Bet Shabbatam Yishma V'Yoshiyim.
Shomer Adonai et kol oavav, et kol hashayim yashmid.
Tilat Adonai daber pi, Vivarech kol basar shem kodsho le'olam va'ed.
Va'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata ve'ad olam. Hallelujah.
We turn now in our Sederim to page 223. You shall always be praised, great and holy God, our sovereign in heaven and on earth. Songs of praise and psalms of adoration become you, acknowledging your might and your dominion. Yours are strength and sovereignty, sanctity, grandeur, and glory always. We offer our devotion, open our hearts in acclamation. Baruch atah Adonai el melech gadol batish bachot el hahodaot adon haniflaot habocher b'shirei zimra melech el chei haolamim. Praised are you, sovereign of wonders, crowned in adoration, delighting in song, eternal majesty.
Yitgadal v'yitgadal shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechan u'v'yomechan u'v'chayei t'chol beit Yisrael b'gala u'vizman kariv v'immeru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam olam me'olam haya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei t'kudisha b'richu leila min kol b'chata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata Damiran be'alama v'himmeru. Amen.
We continue on page 226. Please rise if you are able for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha v'rachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chokhma asita, mal'ah ha'aretz kinyanecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita yefa'av ruchasela. Or chadash al tzion ta'ir, v'nisgei chulanu mehira le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai yotzer ha-me'orot. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and light blinded we saw that inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us. As we climbed, fell back, and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kivod Malchutah Le'olam Vad.
Please be seated.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol mildecha ve'ayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lachtecha v'derech V'shachbecha v'kumecha Ukshartam le'ot al yadecha V'ayu letotafot bein einecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uv'isharecha Leman tizkiru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai V'tem kedoshim Elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Asher otzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim. Liot lachem le'Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We turn now to page 239 in the Siddur as we read together at the top of the page in English. Emet, there is no place where you are not. Even in the wilderness there is your word. Emet, that pen strokes of lightning, white fire, black flame, stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is Torah. Your truth for us is certain and established, now and forevermore. Like Moses, Miriam, and all Israel, we sing out and rejoice.
Mi kamocha nedar bakodesh enora tehilot osei fela osei fela yalai lai lai yalai lai yalai lai yalai lai lai yalai yalai lai lai yalai lai yalai shira chadasha shibchu geulim neshimecha al sfat hayam yachad kulam hodu ve'himlecha ve'amera yalai lai lai yalai lai yalai lai yalai lai yalai lai yalai lai Adonai Malach le'olam va'ed. Adonai Malach le'olam va'ed. Adonai Malach le'olam va'ed. Le'olam va'ed. Yalai, 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 Israel, kuma, 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 Bezrat Israel, ufidei chinumecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, ufidei chinumecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, go aleinu Adonai tzavot shemo kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Our service continues with the tefillah on page 242. Please rise if you are able for the tefillah.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim, Tovim v'Krei Akol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imat, V'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, L'man shemo beva, Melech ozer, Mashiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Michayei hakol atachav le'oshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim abechem, חסד המחיה כל ברחמים רבים סומך הנופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכול.
נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום. כך כתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר.
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מכל הארץ כבודו.
אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושענו, הוא ישמענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גוד לך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גוד לך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גוד לך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גוד לך. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. We turn now to page 250, and to honor Shabbat, we join in the middle of the page as together we sing V'shamru.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasut et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit ulam Beini uvein bnei Yisrael ot hileu ulam ki sheshet yamim asad Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat v'yin afash uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat v'yin afash.
We turn now in the Seder to page 253. At the top of the page, we honor Shabbat by reading together in English. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. We turn now to page 259, as together we offer a prayer for peace. We oughtn't pray for what we've never known, and humanity has never known. Unbroken peace, unmixed blessing, no. Better to pray for pity, for indignation, discontent, the will to see and touch, the power to do good and make new. Baruch atah Adonai hamvarech et amo Yisrael. Shalom. We pause now for Tfilat Halev, an opportunity to offer to God the prayer of our hearts. Inspirational readings for this moment are found on pages 260 and 261.
Say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh shalom. Say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. V'yimeru amen. Say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh shalom. Say shalom, shalom bimromav. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imeru amen, amen.
Our service continues now with Seder Kriyat Torah, our service for the reading of the Torah, which is found in the Siddur on page 363. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. We continue in the middle of the next page. Please rise.
V'yavo melech hakavod. Mi uza melech hakavod. Adonai tzvaot. Hu melech hakavod.
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shema, Gadol Adonai iti, Uniramim Shema Yachdav, Lecha Adonai HaGedila, VeHaGevura, VeHaTiferet, VeHaNetzach VeHad, Ki Chol Bashamayim Uvaretz, Ki Chol Bashamayim Uvaretz, Lecha Adonai HaMamalach, VeHaMid Nasi, L'chol Rosh. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu.
Please be seated. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Truma. We find it in the book of Exodus, and if you are here in the sanctuary, you can find it in the Torah commentary book on page 604. If you are watching us on live stream and you have a copy of the revised Torah commentary, you can find it on page 545. I will be reading from the opening verses of Parshat Truma, because really this summarizes the entire process of building the tabernacle. There are many, many details. It is worth reading them all. But this first section of Parshat Truma tells us a few important things. It tells us that the tabernacle is to be constructed from donated materials. It tells us the variety of these materials, including precious metals like gold and silver and copper. And it tells us the purpose of the tabernacle, that they may build a sanctuary that God will dwell among them. And the purpose is not specifically that God will dwell in the tabernacle, but that God will dwell among the people or within the people. And they followed these commands. Everything else, I guess you could say, is commentary. It's interesting commentary in terms of the way these things are constructed and put together, the leadership, the way people volunteer their time. All of this is included in the story of the building of the tabernacle, which goes on for multiple Torah portions. But as I said, the summary is here, meant to give a background to inspire us to look for the details, because in the details we find context. In the details we find all that which makes the tabernacle an important historical element within the Jewish people. So to honor the Torah today, we call upon Cindy Simon. As Cindy comes up, I'll just repeat the page numbers. I'm going to read from the beginning, Exodus 25, verse 1, page 604 here in the sanctuary, or page 545 in the revised Torah commentary. Okay, put your hand right there for me. All right, we're ready.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'charbanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torto. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Amen. Vaydeber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el b'nei Yisrael vayikhu li truma me'et kol ish asher yidvenu libo tikhu et trumati v'zot hatruma asher tikhu me'itam zahav v'chesef unechoshet utechel et ba'argaman v'tolad shani v'sheish v'izim ve'orot elim ve'odamim ve'orot techashim v'adsei shitim shemen lamaor b'samim l'shemen hamishcha ve'liktoret hasamim avnei shoham ve'avnei miluim le'efod ve'lachoshen ve'asuli mikdash ve'shachanti b'tocham kechol asher ani mar'e otcha et tavnit hamishkan ve'et tavnit kol kelav ve'chen tasu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah Emeth v'chayei olam natan b'tokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Oh.
I got it. See? This time our thoughts turn to those in need of healing as we prepare to offer a prayer for healing found in your Seder on page 371. If you are watching us on live stream and you are thinking of someone in need of healing, I invite you to share the name of your loved one in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform. And similarly, if you are here in the sanctuary, I invite you to share the name of your loved one in need of healing out loud or in your heart. The members of our congregation and their loved ones who we pray for healing will be shown on your screen as we turn out to page 371 and we join together in the Mishaberach.
Avotenu mikor habracha limotenu. May thy source have strength, who blessed the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mikol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We continue now with the lifting and dressing of the Torah, which is found at the bottom of page 370. Please rise if you are able for Hagba and Galila.
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai yad Moshe. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya
seated. The Haftarah portion is found here in the sanctuary on page 717 of the Torah commentaries. If you have a revised Torah commentary at home, it's on page 559. And the Haftarah comes from 1 Kings. The tabernacle of which I spoke and of which the Torah portion Truma gives so much detail is really just a temporary structure. And I mean that in two ways. First of all, it's temporary. It is built up and taken down, and it is packed up and moved as the Israelites wander from place to place throughout the Torah. So it is temporary in that way. But it's also temporary in an interim way. It is meant to teach the Israelites how to worship and how to create and maintain and respect a sacred place, but it is meant to teach those lessons for a limited amount of time until a temple, a permanent place of worship, can be built. And so it is centuries between when we read about the tabernacle and when King Solomon builds the temple. And so as we make this transition from Torah to Haftarah, we are leaping over those centuries to now Solomon's temple and some of the details in how it is built. And I want to draw your attention to the last line of the Haftarah, because that last line echoes the mission statement of Exodus chapter 25, verse 8, about how this sacred space will help God dwell among the people. You can follow along as Sandy Klein reads the Haftarah for us. Once again, page 717 in the sanctuary, or page 559 at home. Sandy. No, I've got it all set.
I plan on it. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who has chosen faithful prophets to speak words of truth. Praise to you, Adonai, for the revelation of Torah, for your servant Moses, for your people Israel, and for prophets of truth and righteousness. The Lord had given Solomon wisdom, as he had promised him. There was friendship between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a treaty. King Solomon imposed forced labor on all Israel. The levy came to 30,000 men. He sent them to the Lebanon in shifts of 10,000 a month. They would spend 1 month in the Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adoniram was in charge of the forced labor. Solomon also had 70,000 porters and 80,000 quarriers in the hills, apart from Solomon's 3,300 officials who were in charge of the work and supervised the gangs doing the work. The king ordered huge blocks of choice stone to be quarried so that the foundations of the house might be laid with hewn stones. Solomon's masons, Hiram's masons, and the men of Gebal shaped them. Thus the timber and the stones for the building of the house were made ready. In the 480th year after the Israelites left the land of Egypt in the month of Ziv, that is, the second month in the 4th year of his reign over Israel, Solomon began to build the house of the Lord. The house which King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. The portico in front of the great hall of the house was 20 cubits long, along the width of the house, and 10 cubits deep to the front of the house. He made windows for the house, recessed and latticed. Against the outside wall of the house, the outside walls of the house enclosing the great hall and the shrine, he built a storied structure, and he made side chambers all around. The lowest story was 5 cubits wide, the middle one 6 cubits wide, and the third 7 cubits wide, for he had provided recesses around the outside of the house so as not to penetrate the walls of the house. When the house was built, only finished stones cut at the quarry were used, so that no hammer or axe or any iron tool was heard in the house while it was being built. The entrance to the middle story of the side chambers were on the right side of the house, and winding stairs led up to the middle chambers, and from the middle chambers to the third story. When he finished building the house, he paneled the house with beams and planks of cedar. He built the storied structure against the entire house, each story 5 cubits high, so that it encased the house with timbers of cedar. Then the word of the Lord came to Solomon. With regard to this house you are building, if you follow my laws and observe my rules and faithfully keep my commandments, I will fulfill for you the promise that I gave to your father David. I will abide among the children of Israel, and I will never forsake my people Israel. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, rock of all creation, righteous one of all generations, the faithful God, whose word is deed, whose every command is just and true. For the Torah, for the privilege of worship, for the prophets, and for this Shabbat that you, Adonai, our God, have given us for holiness and rest, for honor and glory, we thank and bless you. May your name be blessed forever by every living being. Praise to you, Adonai, for the Sabbath and its holiness.
We continue now on page 374 of the Seder as we prepare to return the Torah to the Ark. Please rise. Yehalalu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado.
Hodoleret v'shamayim vayarem kereleamo tehillah lechol chasidav livnei Yisrael am kirova. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ki lekach tov natati lachem, torati al tazavu. Eitz chaim hi, lama chazikim ba, v'tamcha meushar deracha dechinam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nai shuva Harish, Harish, Yamene, Harish, Yamene, Kikedem.
Please be seated. Recently, the school board in McMinn County, Tennessee, removed Art Spiegelman's Pulitzer Prize-winning book Mouse from its 8th grade Holocaust curriculum. The content, they decided, was not appropriate for children. Spiegelman is both an artist and a storyteller, and Maus is written as a graphic novel. It is graphic in more ways than one, showing some graphic scenes of pain and destruction. The book describes the author's father's experience during the Holocaust, portraying the Jews as mice and the Nazis as cats. The school board, offended by explicit language and an image of nudity, said another book should take its place, though they did not specify which one. The decision elicited outcry from many sources, and as part of the backlash, the book became an Amazon bestseller. Spiegelman himself was baffled by the decision, saying he got the impression that the board members were asking, why can't they teach a nicer Holocaust? The action by a county that is about halfway between Knoxville and Chattanooga has received outsized attention. The district has only about 5,500 students. I believe the response is due in part to the fact that the decision was made the same week as International Holocaust Remembrance Day. But it is also part of a larger effort to shield young people from uncomfortable historical truths and their parents from having to help them process them. The last election cycle brought this discomfort to the surface. In many places, candidates and activists redefined critical race theory from an idea taught in law schools, examining the role of the law in perpetuating discrimination, to a pernicious practice infiltrating every school intended to make white students feel guilty about history. In the Virginia governor's race, one issue was the teaching of Toni Morrison's Beloved in a 12th grade honors English class. The brutality of slavery depicted in the novel horrified one student's mother and evidently many other Virginia voters. Glenn Youngkin, who won that election, issued an executive order on his first day in office that directed the state's Department of Education to cease promoting or teaching, quote, inherently divisive concepts. The phrase appears 12 times in the governor's 4-page order. It has a lengthy legal definition, but in short, it prohibits the state from in any way supporting the idea that race affects society, that some aspects of society perpetuate discrimination, and that we can better understand these phenomena by sometimes looking at them through the lens of race. The section of the Torah portion I read goes into the details of building the tabernacle. In just 9 verses, Parshat Trumah lists 14 components the Israelites are supposed to donate. Later it will go on to speak about the ways the rings and the poles will fit together and the design of the 2 cherubim on the cover of the ark. In other words, no detail seems too small to mention in the Torah. To fully understand the role of the tabernacle, one must understand its context. It was built in the wilderness by former slaves. It was built from donations, both donations of time and donations of materials. It was supervised by 2 people chosen by God with inherent talent. Both men and women are put to work, and the Torah mentions specifically that the women did the spinning of the hairs into threads. If you don't know these things, you cannot fully understand the role the tabernacle played in the life of ancient Israel. And if you prevent them from being spoken about, you ensure that the tabernacle and the rituals that were performed there will not be fully appreciated. Similarly, one cannot understand the manifestations of racism in today's society if one does not know the details, many of them brutal, of slavery. One cannot understand racism if one is shielded from the horrors of lynching. And one cannot understand racism if one does not know about the caste system that existed from before this country's founded, that was intended to enrich one group of people at the expense of another. This seems to be one of the inherently divisive concepts that some Americans are not to be exposed to. But to what end? For a glimpse, we can look at McMinn County's school board. Banning Maus does not mean they will not teach the Holocaust, but the school board members have decided that the discomfort they feel from an honest portrayal of Holocaust atrocities overrides the need to teach their 8th graders the kind of context that Maus can provide. If they want their students to fully understand how and why the Holocaust happened, if their education as moral beings and citizens of the world depends on it, they cannot shy away from the details. sometimes the graphic details. There is no such thing as a nicer Holocaust. Only people who are not educated to know how awful the Holocaust was. The tabernacle was not envisioned or funded or assembled in a vacuum. It filled a social and religious need. It was a communal project, and it was the precursor to something similar but much more formidable, Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. The impact that context and history have on us cannot be ignored. And if someone says they are inherently divisive, we must examine the history and context of the claim, of the very word. We must see what they mean, what they fear, and what they seek to hide. For the details often reveal the deeper truth that can lead us to appreciation and redemption. Shabbat Shalom. Our service continues now with the Aleinu, which is found in the Seder on page 586 at the bottom of the page. Please rise if you are able for the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gdula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kiguye haratzot, velo samanu kmishpchot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vigor aleinu kechol amonam, va'anachanu koreim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
We remain standing at this time for a reading to introduce the Mourner's Kaddish found in the Seder on page 595. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. This Shabbat, we remember those for whom we are in the Shloshim, 30-day period of mourning. Howard Schlechtman, brother of Andrew Schlechtman, Joan Chellimer, mother of Mark Chellimer, Andrea Hamus, cousin of Robin Rolfe, Marilyn Buchenholtz, aunt of Michael Robinson, Edith May, mother of Stuart May, and Erwin Kramer, former husband of Barbara Smolin. We remember as well those whose yahrzeits occurred this week: Essie Albert, Lillian Baer, Shirley Bloom, Nancy Boonin, Hannah Rothenberg Broder, Dorothy Carbon, Sylvain Cerf, Jean Cerf, Abe Dickstein, Morris Finder, Lillian Freed, Alan Gelbart, Joseph Gottfried, Benjamin Hantman, Isaac Macklin Kaplan, Arthur Kornfeld, Maria Kozak, Paul Stephen Lazar, Albert Levine, Fran Levine, Ida Levy, Charles Richard Mayer, Gussie Mandelkern, Sherwood Bradford Menkes, Eileen Nahm, Suzanne Purcell, Sally Rosenberg, Ilsa Rosenthal, Ben Sulkin, Rose Shapiro, Sharon Segan, Elizabeth Watson, and Jay Winters. And we remember the names of 6 of the 6 million who perished in the Holocaust: Moritz Schwartz of Hungary, age 49, Ita Yufa of the Soviet Union, age 63, Esther Bagel of Soviet Union, age 45, Guta Gorodetsky of Poland, age 60, Fania Rosenberg of Poland, age 45, and Golda Wolfson of Poland, age 21. We remember them all. We take them into our hearts with our own as we turn now to page 598 and we join together in the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitzgadal v'yitzgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yutei ve'amlich malchutei. Be'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'yizman kariv imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorach leolam ulalmei almaya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitzpa'ar v'yitzromam v'yitznaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. Please be seated. It is my pleasure at this time to call upon Stephanie Stokes, a member of our Board of Trustees, to offer Shabbat greetings and announcements. Okay, Stephanie, you have your own copy. You come prepared. All right.
So Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
On behalf of the Board of Trustees, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Shabbat morning service. Looking ahead to Purim, you can order Shalach Manot online this year for your family and friends. Please see your weekly email for information about how to order. The deadline is March 1st. Our next adult education class will be taught by Cantor Tillum on Zoom starting on Tuesday, February 8th. Cantor Tillum will speak on the subject of searching for my Yiddish mama, sacrifice and assimilation. Classes will be held on February 8th, 15th, and 22nd at 7:30. Please see your weekly email for the Zoom link. On Friday, February 18th at 8 p.m., we'll join with Temple Avodat Shalom of River Edge for a collaborative Shabbat evening service. Temple Emeth members are invited to attend either in person or via live stream. The service will be led by clergy representing both synagogues and will include guest speaker Abby Greenberg in honor of Jewish Disabilities Awareness, Acceptance, and Inclusion Month. As with their own building, anyone entering theirs must be masked and fully vaccinated. Rabbi Serbu will join in leading the program and will read our weekly Mishaberach and Yahrzeit lists. Thank you this morning to volunteers in the live stream control room. Barbara Balkin and Ace Ryan and Maya Zakin are at the controls this morning. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Stephanie. I also wanted to mention that in your weekly email and then also in the email that went out yesterday about our change of plans for last night's service, there is the link to a survey about our second night Passover Seder. The second night of Passover is April 16th. We know the date. What we don't know is how exactly we as a congregation will be celebrating. But you can help us determine that by filling out the survey. It should only take 2 minutes. It's a few questions about social distancing versus Zoom, questions about price, and basically, if you fill that out, we will have a better sense of what our congregation is looking for as we get ready to celebrate Passover in April. So we hope you'll do that. We have a closing song this morning. I invite you to turn to page 634. I mean, the whole song is only 5 words long. But if you like the 5 words in front of you, we turn to page 634 as Cantor Tillum leads us in singing Ma Yafeh Hayom.
Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. 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 Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
We conclude our service with Kiddush and Motzi. If you're watching us on live stream and your Kiddush cup is in another room, now's the time to bring it to your computer or your screen so you too can partake in this blessing. We raise our cups. Please rise for the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim.
L'chaim. And we join together in the Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
We've reached the end of the service. If you have been watching us on live stream, it is your last opportunity to post something in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform. So we hope you'll do that as we draw to a close. If you are here in the sanctuary, you have the opportunity to look to a fellow worshiper, a fellow temple member, a fellow member of our community who has come to celebrate Shabbat as we turn to one another and we say, Shabbat Shalom.